Okay, I'm going to start. And all right, so we're halfway through the houses. We've done what I consider the main core, the experiential side, the behavioral side that you really see based on the light and the darkness. We've already got that from the half of the sky being rising and half of the sky being setting. So that's the rising instigating side and the setting reactive side of our charts. We have above and below the horizon, which is the objective functional world outside around us of our relationships, our careers, our friends, our status, and all of the interreactive things that happen out in the world. And we have our personal world of subjective being within ourselves below the horizon, the first 6 houses. So these 2 categories of rising, setting, about functional, objective, functional, and subjective being break down to the 4 qualities of intuition, feeling, sensation, and thinking. So we have the 4 quadrants of intuition, feeling, sensation, and thinking. Now, these I consider the primary insights. Like, you could take the 4 categories in the signs, the 4 seasons, the freedom and responsibility of the signs, with the subjective and objective polarity of the houses, and just with those factors, you get a really clear insight into someone's behavior without having to say it has to be this or it's just about this. Or you get it, you tune in to see how someone processes uniquely and what makes them strong or makes them more alive, or when energies are going in the opposite way, which would challenge them. So we have all of these categories in our charts. We have all of these area, intuition, feeling, sensation in our and thinking. They're all in ourselves. So we're not missing any of them. What happens is when the planets start being in them and the sun starts being in places, it puts a priority in certain areas. It puts energy in certain areas. So some areas are more accentuated than others. So they become more predominant in one's life. And this is where we begin to get more the specific information about it. But it's not like if you don't have anything in the thinking quadrant that you're not thinking. It's not like you don't feel. Everybody has feelings. Everyone has sensations. Everyone has intuition. Everyone has thinking. It's just we use them slightly different. We have slightly different priorities on how important each thing is. Okay, so from here, we have all of the, what I would say, the mathematical divisions or the mathematical factors that add the next levels or the most common levels of the houses. And each house has its own specific uniqueness. But like the signs, we're going to do these in layers. So we're going to go through each of these in layers. And the signs, the houses are numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and they're numbered and they go around counterclockwise. So that's the tradition of numbering them and how some of these numerical categories have come about. But in reality, the sun moves from the IC through the 3rd house, up through the 2nd, up through the 1st, to the ascendant, up to the 12th, 11th, 10th, up to the midheaven, then back through 9, 8, 7. So in the day, each planet is moving through these houses in the other way. So right now, in today's class, we're going to deal with the basic categories around the way that they have been made, how the categories have been made by the sequence of the numbers. However, at a later stage, we're going to add a more thorough category going around it the other way around, going from the midheaven, the IC to the ascendant to the midheaven, and around clockwise. Okay. So after you get the quadrants, 1 second, something's a little strange, something's still on here. I'm going to turn it off. There, okay, good. So the first, when it comes to the next set of categories, each quadrant of intuition, feeling, sensation, or thinking, each quadrant is divided into 3 houses. And each of the 3 houses have a 1, 2, 3 effect. There's 3 different types of energies. So in the signs of the zodiac, we had the cardinal, the fixed, and the immutable signs. The first sign of the season, the second, and the third. and here in the hours of the day, each house is 2 hours of the day. So we have a 6-hour period, and you have the first, second, and third house. So this is the morning, the period before, from midnight till sunrise. Basically, it's that subjective, intuitive projection, getting up, waking up, and preparing ourselves to get out into the world, or not preparing yourself. But the first house in each quadrant is called an angular house. This is the first house, the fourth house, the seventh house, and the 10th house. The first house of each. These are called angular houses, and angular houses are houses of being. There's a dynamic being. There's a drive to be someone, to do something, to be something. So there's a special identity and a power that goes into one's being. So you'll see the energy in terms of being. The second house, which we'll get to, is having, and the third house is having and using. Is the second house in each quadrant. And the third house is the cadence, which is either understanding or transforming what you have. So there's angular being, to be or not to be, the succeedant, because you're being a certain being, you have certain things that go with that. You have a being, you have energy, and how you have and use that energy, that's the succeedant houses. And then how you have and use it is one thing, but the cadent house is the third house in each quadrant, is how you understand or transform what you have, how you can adjust or figure out or learn how to use what you have in a better way, or a worse way, how you can adjust how you use things. So it's your understanding or transforming. So these houses of being, having, using, and understanding or transforming, these are three basic categories that, as we look at them, we're going to have them in, based on what planets are in there, and we're going to have them accentuated in different ways. And we'll see these categories stand out more and more. So these are basic ones you'll see in most of the books on the houses you would read. They will go through these angular, succeeding, cadent. They may not say houses of being, they may say having or understanding. Some will, but usually they give keywords for it. Okay, so the houses of being, with each of these, the houses of being, of having, of understanding. So there's 4 types of being. 4 types of being. I'm being myself, first house. I'm being me. This is me, my being. Then we have the 10th house. This is my status. This is I have my job. I have my career. This is my career being. Then we can be in a relationship, 7th house. Being in a relationship. I'm being us. I'm being in my relationship. And then they have the 4th house of being secure or being at home, or having a secure. If you have a home, if you're being in a home, this is where I'm coming from. This is where I live. This is my being. I'm being secure. This is the 4th house. So these categories, there's always a drive. If there's planets there, or just in these areas, even just a sign that shows you the style in which you're trying to be. Each of these 4 areas. Now, each of these 4 areas kind of conflict with each other. Being yourself conflicts with being in relationships. Being in a status conflicts with being at home. We have these natural conflicts in life. Everyone does. We have to have a home. We have to work for it. We have a body. We have to eat, but we have to share. It's easier to share and go along with people. So we have, in fact, you could say there's always an opposition between the ascendant and the descendant. How you see yourself and what you project out is the opposite of how other people see you and respond, and how other people, the feedback other people give you, or how you relate to others, how you're conscious of being related to others. It's the opposite. So the ascendant is your image you put out, but the descendant is how other people see you, or how other people respond to you, and how you take energy in from other people. So in a similar way, the midheaven and the IC, at the midheaven, up at the 10th house, the midheaven, you have your status and your authority and all the things you have to do and be to maintain your career and maintain your job, or the things you're going to do if you don't have a job and you're trying to get it, or how you're holding together, how do you get respect, how do you accomplish things. This is all the the 10th house state of being, and that it takes time to be involved with other people, accomplish things, to be useful in the world. But it doesn't take time to be at home. But being at home and being secure, you can have your home, but it's not going to be secure if you're not working to cover for it. And we make all kinds of trade-offs and different ways we play this out between being at home, being at work. Everyone has this polarity. How secure are you? What can you accomplish? So these, if you have your son in any of these, any of these four angular houses, you're going to see them stand out very distinctly. You're going to see these people. So someone might be a mutable sign and have planets all in mutable houses or fixed houses, and you think you don't see really strong drive at all. But someone could have the planets in the angular houses, and suddenly you're going to see a little extra force, or extra strength of being, extra status, extra identity, extra sense of my place or my security, extra strength of relationships, or good relationships or bad relationships. But these are, if you have your planets in the angular houses, they can add a drive or a forcefulness or an assertiveness of being that it can mirror what's in the signs, or it can be different than what's in the signs. So it's two different levels, and there's information from both levels that you can get. And sometimes they're very similar, and someone is very easy to stereotype. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes it works one way in attitudes and another way in circumstances. So this just takes time. You do charts. By watching people, you'll see this. But this is the first thing you want to see. The angular houses are houses of being, to be or not to be myself, my identity, the first house, to be secure in the fourth house, to be in a relationship, seventh house, to be in a job or career in the 10th house, to have status. So these are the main angular houses. And each house can have a different sign on it, and you're going to have one of 12 attitudes going into each of these houses. So you can see the attitude, whether you have an independent identity or you have a very responsible identity, whether you have an independent sense of freedom in career and you're very serious and responsible at home, or whether you have a very independent home but are very responsible and serious about career. You see the sign will come in and affect the houses and put its attitude into the affairs of the houses. So usually with the houses, we're seeing how we react in day-to-day circumstances. It's a more worldly or mundane concern. It's how we put our energy down into life, into the day-to-day realities. Whereas the signs, it's more about the attitudes towards freedom and responsibility. Attitudes are very powerful, but it's the way we deal with circumstances are too. Probably the majority of a lot of American astrology or Western astrology is based, a lot of astrology is based on memorize the houses and then see how the signs are added, add the signs to the house, add the planets to the house. And that's one of the main ways of interpreting it. But because we use the phases and are watching them in phases, it's two different levels, and someone can be tuned in. If someone has a problem, suppose someone has a psychological problem or something, or a big depression to try and solve it. Sometimes the solution is in the signs, in the attitudes. Sometimes the solution is in one's circumstances. Sometimes it's both. So there's different places you have to observe a person's behavior, and there's different places where you can see how someone's inclined to react. I mean, if you got a kid in school, and why are they making it or why are they not? Or what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses? This you really see from astrology really easily. So we're starting to see these qualities. If you have someone who's a dynamic being, has these being angular houses accentuated in their chart, and they're in a class where everybody has to be passive and just listen and nobody's doing anything, they're going to have trouble with those classes. Whereas if they're given a chance to achieve, to do better, to be the best, to make things happen, they'll drive a little bit more than the other signs, than the other houses. Yeah, okay. So first level, angular being. So just states of being. The first house in each quadrant.